You're listening to the Paranormal Peeps on the Darkcast Network. Come to the dark side of indie podcasts with the Darkcast Network.
We have cookies. Between the realm of the dead and the journeys of the living, join Josh, Jamie, and Elisa as they delve into the vast world of the paranormal and breathe life back into the history of the departed.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Paranormal Peeps podcast.
Welcome.
Hello,
I am one of your hosts, Josh, and I got with me,
Jamie.
and Elisa.
and we have a wonderful show for you guys tonight. We're going to cover our, I would say, not our second investigation of the year, but this is actually our second investigation podcast episode of the year.
Is it?
It is. We have done nine investigations, and we are lagging severely behind on our evidence
Did we
review.
not talk about, we talked about the Stanley Hotel?
That was our first one.
And did we not do Virginia City? We talked about Virginia City, our trip.
We talked a little bit about it, but we didn't actually get into all of the evidence and stuff that we gathered.
Right. We said we'd do a part 2 or later episode or whatever.
Yeah, we're still waiting on the review of the
And
evidence.
so this would technically kind of be 3, wouldn't it?
Ish.
I mean, if you want.
2.5.
Yeah, okay, 2.5.
2 3/4.
So we will get to the other episodes. I promise you. It's just about 400 hours of video and audio to review.
Yeah.
It's a lot. We'll get there. I promise. So before we get into this episode, though, we have an event coming up, and it's going to be right after this episode airs, about a week afterwards. What do we got going on?
So we have a Halloween costume contest and public investigation out at Benson Gristmill on Friday, October 13th. So Friday the 13th, you guys.
This doesn't happen, especially in October. Doesn't
Yeah.
happen very often.
Yes.
So this is going to be a fun night.
Yes, we got lucky, and I mean, we grabbed the date last year. In
We did.
fact, last October, and yeah, so it's going to be a good night.
Going to be a lot of fun, everybody.
Yeah, so we're gonna have a couple vendors out there. We're gonna have Lavinia's Eden. She was actually out at our first one last year.
Yep.
She sells wire wrap jewelry and stones and crystals, and she's got loose leaf teas that are different flavors. Not really what you commonly find in the stores.
No.
So, and she even has the tea seepers and all that stuff for the loose leaves. So, but she's got some great stuff. I will also be there. I will be selling. And I only make this in the fall and winter of every year, but homemade caramel.
We usually
they're
call it
so
Christmas
good.
caramel.
It's so good.
Yes, we call it Christmas caramel, but I make pumpkin spice flavored, original, cake batter, lemon, almond. I mean,
You make a lot of, I think 16 to 20 different varieties of it.
yeah, and I won't have that many there, but and I'll have other things too. So
Bring your monies.
bring your monies, guys. We're gonna have lots of goodies there, decorated sugar cookies, little ghost ones, and all that. So.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
And maybe caramel apples. I'm thinking about doing caramel apples, and then I'm thinking about doing poison apples, which is just a Granny Smith apple. And it has a hard candy shell on it.
Oh, yummy.
But they're black and they're shiny. You can see your reflection in them.
That's so cool. You
yeah.
should.
So bring your monies for those things. We will also have a costume contest. We have prizes for first, second, and third.
So come dressed up.
Yes.
And
yes.
just make sure that if it's got a cape or funky shoes or a mask or anything like that, just make sure that you can bring a change of clothes. You can change out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Or just a pair of shoes or something, just so you can be safe. This is not a well-maintained area. There's loose boards and stuff like that. So
well, and
you
just
can
the
trip.
stairs. So if you have a mask or a cape, we don't want you to wear those while you're investigating, going up and down the stairs, because that obviously can be very dangerous. So have good tennis shoes on.
Yeah, because they're steep stairs.
They are.
It's narrow and steep. So
It is. So make sure if your costume has heels on it or anything, that you bring a pair of tennis shoes.
Yes.
And if it's raining or anything, there's a buttload of snails on the ground that people
Yes.
crunch on. So you don't want to.
Slip on a snail.
Yeah.
Yeah. How'd you break your leg? I slipped on a snail during an investigation.
That's
Gross.
that's right out of the Looney Tunes.
No, that's a banana peel, dear. Anyways, we'll also be serving free of charge hot cocoa and hot cider. And we'll have some grab bags of chips, and we have bottled water. So those are free. But bring your monies for the vendors, because there's going to be
And
lots of goodies.
They're good deals too. So
Yes.
they're not ones that you want to pass up.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
So, but we will put the link on our social media sites.
Yes.
And you can
Find us through Eventbrite.
Eventbrite, Cold Spot Paranormal Research, and Benson Gristmill Investigation.
Yep.
So we're over halfway sold out. So I think that the closer Halloween gets, we could possibly sell out.
Absolutely. So get your tickets while you can.
Yes, and there are photo ops too. We have some really cool decorations for photo ops for you guys.
Yeah.
We've got some new ones this year.
We do.
Yep.
And they're all going to be paranormally themed, which is nice.
Yeah.
So we're going to get on to the investigation portion of our episode. And honestly, I think this place holds probably a special place, at least in my heart, and I know maybe for Jamie as well, since this is one of the first places we investigated as a team back when we had our old team.
Yes, that's right.
And then this is Elisa's, third time?
Uh-huh.
So we're talking about the old Montana State Prison in Deer Lodge, Montana. And this place is, I don't know, it's at least almost 100 years old, or over 100 years old.
Yeah, it's over 100, yeah.
So it has a very storied history and things that have happened here. And the nice thing is most of it's still there.
It's in pretty good condition considering.
Yeah. The one cell block was built in 1912.
Yep.
And it's still standing, still looking pretty good.
Yeah.
It looks actually really good.
Yeah. With all the prisons that we've been to, this is probably the most well kept.
Yes, I would agree.
For as old as it is.
Yeah.
So the other awesome part about it is where the old laundry facility is. It's kind of like in the wall area. It's where the visitor center is now. They also have an old car museum.
And it's huge, guys.
Yeah, lots of beautiful vintage cars. I mean, they're gorgeous.
And they have some newer ones too.
They do, but they mostly have what would be considered vintage. They have muscle cars in there. They're just beautiful.
They have
style.
They have a replica of Eleanor from Gone in 60 Seconds there.
Mm-hmm.
And they even put in the Go Baby Go button.
That's so cool.
Well, for people who don't know what that is, what kind of car is it?
That's a Shelby GT 500.
Yes, it is.
Beauty.
One of the cars I would love to have.
But it will never happen.
It'll never happen because I can't afford it.
No.
It's like 3 times my salary for a one that doesn't even run. So, but before we get on to the night of the investigation, we had probably one of the funnest trips up to Deer Lodge that we've ever had, because we took a stop in an old ghost town that we've never gone to before, and we've made this trip, I don't know, 30 times, 40 times.
A lot.
So we went up to Virginia City, which isn't that far off the beaten path. It's only like 45 minutes.
Yeah, it really wasn't that far. But they have 2 little kind of ghost towns up there.
Yeah, there's Nevada City, which is kind of, from my understanding, it's actually a little bit like Benson, where they just brought in a bunch of old stuff.
Yeah, it's still old stuff. It's still,
It's still neat.
Still neat. And then there's
Virginia City itself.
Now, a lot of people, when I say that, they go, "Oh, Nevada." No, Montana. I mean, there's those in Montana too.
Well,
so,
if you think about it, we've been to 2 Virginia cities this year,
Yeah.
yes, we have. Yeah.
and they look totally different.
Totally different. But yeah, this Virginia City in Montana was nice. It was so nice. We walked down along the railroad tracks down there to a bridge where the water was spilling over.
Oh, beautiful views.
Yes.
Mountains surrounding. It was
Gorgeous.
gorgeous and green and so pretty.
Yes. But we just kind of strolled up one side of the town and looked at the little,
Everything.
displays that they had and read information.
They had cool displays of like old toys or
Old general store where they had like old food and containers and
the
stuff.
containers that the spices went in and
Yes. Yeah.
all of that, the clothes that they would sell. So amazing. And I looked at those corsets and I was like, my leg could fit in that. They were so tiny. Holy moly.
Well, and let's talk about the shoes too that are
Oh my
like
gosh.
4 inches wide.
Yeah.
Like, they're like tiny
Ain't
shoes.
happening. Ain't happening. And they were women's shoes.
Yeah.
They weren't
were.
even like for little kids.
Yeah. So it was a great time. I wish we had more time, but we had talked about planning another trip where we can kind of go and meander through those areas for longer.
Yeah. There's just so much.
There's so much.
We only got through, I think, only even a quarter of Main Street because we walked up and down, but that's still only like a quarter of the town.
Yeah, but they had like a tour, a history tour in an old fire engine.
Well, wasn't it like a ghost tour?
It
Yeah,
was both.
it was
Yeah.
both,
It was a
yeah.
history ghost tour.
Yeah.
And I mean, we wanted to do that, but it's like, we were there to the prison and we had to get to our Airbnb and
And we just missed the start of the tour.
yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
we didn't get a chance to get a ticket for it. So we'd have to wait another hour and a half to start.
Mhm.
And it just wouldn't have worked out for us. But
No.
next time.
Next time.
So they did the one thing I thought that was really neat, though, is in the basement of one of the buildings where they had the old printing press, the old typeset printing press. That was really neat.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
I loved all the different machines that they used because they were so complex.
I know. I almost want to go in there and like just tinker with it.
I know.
Just kind of see how it worked.
Right?
And it was like for all the different type of, I want to say hobbies, but jobs that they had, they
Yeah.
still had a lot of the equipment there for everyone to see. So like you could see where the girls were kind of heading towards was like the shops where the food and the clothes. And there was a lot of men that were like, I'll take a picture of this machine over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
Yeah. And they had a barn. They had a barn there that had a bunch of old wagons and stuff in it.
Mhm. It had a lot of them in there.
It did, but they called it the Vigilante Barn. I don't know if you saw the plaque on the side of the wall.
I don't know. I don't remember.
But that barn has a tie to Bannock, Montana,
Yeah. Henry Plummer's.
to Henry Plummer's. And so that
Yeah.
was a barn that was reportedly used by Plummer's gang,
Yeah.
by Plummer's vigilante gang.
Yeah. And
Mm.
weren't some people hanged in another building?
Yeah,
from
there
the
was 4
beam?
people at the same time
Yeah.
that were all hung at the same time.
off this one beam.
Off
And
the-
they show you the beam.
Yeah.
And they have a picture of all the people there.
They have a diorama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can see
In
how
the middle of the room.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you can see where everybody was. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah.
It's neat. I wish we'd have had, like I said, wish I had more time there.
Well, and this is why we talked about going back and taking our time through there. So
Yeah. But on the way back, we came across that old orphanage
Yes.
we
in Twin
did.
Bridges. That was amazing.
So we were driving home, and I saw this amazing building. Like it was creepy looking as crud. And I just saw it like really fast, and then it went behind some trees, and I was like, we got to turn around and go see that because that looked amazing.
So we did. We turned around.
And when we kind of pulled up to the gate, it said that it was
No trespassing.
no trespassing, but it said that it was like a children's orphanage.
Yes.
Yeah.
And come to find out, it was where a lot of the families would drop their kids off there because they couldn't afford to feed them.
Yeah. During the Great Depression.
Yeah. And so there wasn't like a ton of information, but basically it was a lot of people would drop their kids off until they could afford to feed their kids and take care of their family again, and they'd come back and pick them up. Some kids were just left there, but a lot of other kids were brought back. But that they would work all day. They would work them all day long. But it wasn't that the stories that I read, it wasn't that it was like they were mean and terrible. It was
Right.
just like, we got to keep this thing going to feed everybody, and they'd work on the farms and harvest and all of that and keep bathrooms cleaned and things like that.
Yeah, but there were multiple buildings
Yeah.
that you could tell were abandoned on that property.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully we can get more information on that and see about getting in
I would
there.
love to investigate that place.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was
absolutely.
just looking at what you could see because it is kind of hidden, like Elisa said, in the trees and overgrowth and stuff. But just to be able to get in there and get some really good pictures of this building and going through these buildings that'd be amazing. Just to go in and explore.
Yeah. That'd be super neat.
Yeah,
And find the history out of it because the history
All
is
of
the fun
it.
part.
all of
Oh,
it.
yeah.
All of it would be great.
So, yeah. And we moved on and we got to our Airbnb. Honestly, a great place. It's in Hull. But I will say this, it doesn't have anything to do with the investigation, but that burger place we stopped at,
Yeah, so
Holy crap.
we decided to go to dinner and there's really nothing out there. So we had to drive up to Drummond, which isn't far.
6 miles.
6 miles. There's this little cafe, and I mean little.
It's called Parker's, right?
Yeah. And they serve like how many? 100 and
36 plus.
yeah, different kinds of hamburgers.
I mean, and they were kind of outrageous. Some of these were like way outrageous.
Oh my gosh, you're reading them, you're like, holy moly.
There's a hot dog on that?
and a grilled cheese sandwich. And like, we're not even kidding.
And we're
There
talking about
was.
on top of your hamburger.
Yeah, yep. There was like what was it? A 1/4 pound hamburger, and then they put a grilled cheese sandwich on it, and then another hamburger and like a hot dog, and it was
There was one with like macaroni and cheese.
oh yeah. So what'd you end up having, Josh? What burger did you order?
Oh, what was it?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
Oh,
you.
it was called Sea Hell.
Okay, so what was on that? Do you remember?
It was chilies and jalapenos and absolute deliciousness, honestly. It was
Yeah.
spicy. It had a good kick to it. It was a spicier burger.
Would
And they're
you-
big burgers. They weren't little.
Yeah, it's a 1/4 pound patty, but the thing is still like 5 inches tall.
yours
It's
was
big.
Yours was.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Lisa? What
I
did
just
you...
had a classic BLT.
She didn't-
I
she-
was
boring.
not adventurous.
She didn't
No.
even get a burger. You go to a burger joint and you get
Where they
a
serve
BLT.
over 136 burgers.
It was one of those
And
things
you
where
get a
I was
BLT.
so overwhelmed with all the different types.
There was a lot.
I couldn't even pick. I was like,
BLT.
BLT.
So I narrowed it down to like 3, and I ended up going with the Elvis. And as you can guess, if anybody knows anything about Elvis, he loved peanut butters, bananas, and bacon. And so I had all of that on top of a hamburger patty on a bun.
Random, guys.
Yeah, but you know what? It was delicious.
That just sounds like nasty to me.
Right? And I was being very adventurous because I was worried about the same thing. I thought bananas and peanut butter on ground beef and on a bun with bacon. No. But you know what?
it works.
I would go all the way back there just to have that burger.
She liked it so much that the following week we made them at home.
Yeah.
You did?
We
did.
did.
Did it taste as good?
No. Because so the one I had at that little cafe, they didn't actually season the meat, which was smart.
Oh, and you did?
And
I did.
he did.
And I
He-
made
he-
the patty was too big too.
He made the patty so the meat ratio compared to like the bananas and peanut butter and bacon was way off.
Oh, gotcha.
And then he used salt and pepper in the ground beef. And it's like, you really have to have that plain burger patty
Yeah.
because what's really going to give it the flavor is that peanut butter, bacon, and banana.
But the crazy thing was it was still a good burger.
It was still good, but it wasn't as good as that cafe.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So, but we're going to retry that again.
It's such a random thing.
Oh, it's so good though.
Yeah.
I never would have thought of putting peanut butter and banana on my hamburger.
I wouldn't have either.
And with bacon? I don't know.
Yeah, it was so good.
But we wanted to go back on Monday night and then we found out they were closed.
Well, we looked it up because we wanted to go back on Sunday before our investigation,
and they were closed.
and they were closing Sunday. I get it. And then we talked about going back Monday, and I said, well, you might want to look it up because some places are closed on Monday. And he did. And sure enough, it was closed. So we were sad.
But if you ever get a chance, Drummond is right off I-90 in Montana. Stop at Parker's.
And it's just this little tiny corner restaurant.
Bring a fly swatter.
Yeah. They actually handed me a fly swatter because
Oh,
there was
yeah.
like 50 bazillion flies and I was swatting them left and right.
Oh, yeah. She was picking them off.
It was a bit of an entertainment, honestly.
It was actually kind of fun because there was this plexiglass between us and the people sitting next to us. And she smacks that and it made
They
them
were like
jump.
looking at me. They were like all these old people.
Yeah, but then the guy started, laughing, and every time you'd smack one,
I'm like, oh crap.
he'd
I
laugh.
hit that one really
and
hard.
He'd laugh and kind of like lean back in his chair and put his hands up like, whoa, okay, I surrender. So they were fun.
Yeah.
Lots of fun.
So on to our investigation.
Yeah, investigation night.
So let's talk about the history of it first.
Yep.
Sure. So I want to do a real kind of overlay of it, a brief history of it. We do have a YouTube video you can find on our channel where we talk a lot more about the history of it and go into a lot more detail of it. But we're going to give you the fun, finer points of it, just so you can understand what we're going to talk about in the places that we were investigating. So just so you guys know, it was actually created in 1864. That's when the first prison was actually built or scheduled to be built. And they were told you can spend no more than $40,000 to erect a prison.
Okay, so how do you think they did that?
Well, this is the first one that they built. So they cut a lot of corners, for one.
Sure.
And that ended up becoming a problem. So they ended up giving them more money to add another wing to it and some other pieces to it. And those still didn't go over the greatest cats. But they also use a lot of prison labor to help build the prison. When the prison started expanding and they needed new walls. So the walls that are standing today, they're 20 feet tall and I believe 10 feet down. So they're a 30-foot wall. They were built by the prisoners.
Yeah.
So you get to build your own wall.
That would suck.
Why not, though? Put them to work.
That's what I
Right?
think.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Those walls are still standing.
I know.
Yeah, and there ain't nothing wrong with them. They're solid.
They are
Yep.
solid walls. So after the first prison was built, it was a wooden style prison, and so like, hey, we need something else. So they actually built the first 1896 cell house was the first one that was built, and then they ended up building after that the 1912 cell block and what's called the Federal Building today. And the interesting thing about those two buildings, so in the 1896 cell block, there was a deputy warden who was murdered by one of the inmates. When they built the new Federal Building, there was this riot that happened in 1956. We'll cover that shortly. And during that, the deputy warden was killed in that time too. They were killed 30 years apart, 15 feet apart.
Isn't that crazy? 30 years apart and just murdered 15 feet apart.
15 feet apart.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's absolutely crazy. So there was what we call maximum security now. That started out as a women's prison. And that was actually built in 1907. Interesting thing about this building is there's no running water.
Yeah, there's no plumbing.
Well, there was originally no running water. There is now. There's a shower in there.
Right, but before
There was no
there was
running
no
water.
plumbing. There was nothing.
So the women had to use honey buckets.
Ew. They
Can you
had to-
imagine the smell?
No.
Ugh.
And like a lot of prison movies and things that you read about prisoners, I'm imagining they threw those honey buckets on the guards.
Oh, tossing their poo.
Yeah,
their poo and pee buckets at
Little
them.
monkeys.
There were
Poo flingers.
there were a few of them that were a little ornery
Yeah.
with that. But I mean, if you're trying to get someone's attention and trying to be ornery, I mean, the only thing you got for a weapon is your own.
I think it was
poo.
more. It was more than just getting attention. I think it was just
to be ornery.
yeah. They have nothing better to do.
I was going to say, what else are they going to do?
Yeah.
And I've watched, I can't remember what the show is called, but it's basically where a TV show goes into a prison and they're kind of undercover making this TV show and creating this documentary of these inmates, but these inmates are undercover. They're not real inmates, but everybody else thinks they are, right? Anyways, the prisons were crazy loud. So, and the women, I think were worse just because they were so close together. They had nothing else to entertain them, and they would just bang on those bars 24/7. People were trying to sleep. They're banging on the bars.
I'd go nuts.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That'd be so hard.
Yeah, I'd be crazy.
Oh, can you imagine if you had like diarrhea in front of everybody? That whole place would be smelling so bad.
Right.
Everyone's going to know.
I
'Cause
can
there's
imagine
like no windows in
No.
there. There's no window. There's no
ventilation.
light. There's no ventilation.
no cross breeze
No.
to waft that out of there.
Oh,
It'd be horrible. But I can imagine that you lose your sense of modesty after a while being in prison. I can imagine.
oh, for
that,
sure.
That, you got to puke, got to crap, you don't care. You just drop trow and do it,
Especially if you have to do it in honey buckets.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I mean,
Ugh.
I would burst. I'd hold it in. I just pop one day.
Not going to do it. Nuh-uh. Not going to do it. So probably the biggest fame for this prison, other than the first murder of the deputy warden, is the 1959 riot.
Yeah.
So that happened on April 16th, 1959. Jerry Miles and Lee Smart led 12 inmates in a riot, which left Deputy Warden Ted Roth dead. They took 18 prison employees and 5 stool pigeon inmates as hostages, soaked rags with flammable liquid, and threatened to burn them alive.
How
Holy-
scary would that be?
Terrifying.
Yeah.
So after 36 hours of mounting tension, Warden Floyd Powell implemented a daring rescue attempt. The National Guard fired a bazooka at the tower where the ringleaders were headquartered. Meanwhile, a team of men burst through the doors in the west wall, crossed the yard, and entered the cell house, freeing the hostages. Miles and Smart were found dead of apparent murder-suicide at the top floor of the tower.
Hence the name Death Tower.
Hence the name of Death Tower.
Yeah.
Although the riot focused attention on the overcrowded conditions, it was 20 years before the last prisoners were moved to the new prison.
Okay, that hole where that bazooka hit is
Mhm.
still there.
Yes,
It
it
is.
is.
It's still there so that you can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's the thing. They hit it. They hit right by a window. They hit that tower with a bazooka. And the thing that happened was, 20 bricks fell off.
Yeah.
That's it. There's not a hole there. There's like a divot.
Those prisoners built that good.
That thing is solid.
It is solid.
Wow.
Absolutely solid. So yeah, and so that happened up in what's called the Death Tower.
Mm-hmm.
And the crazy thing about it is, so there's these tunnels underneath one section of the prison. That's where the warden actually communicated with the prisoners, because the warden's house actually is across the street from the prison
Yeah.
and doesn't stay in the prison. So he wasn't in charge of the day-to-day operation. That was the job of the deputy warden. That's why he was inside the prison at the time when he was murdered. And so imagine having the deputy warden have to come in, go into these tunnels and try to talk to the prisoners and try to calm things down through what's arguably a slit in the wall.
Yeah.
It is. It kind of looks like, the little holes in the doors for your mail, like what you would see from back in the day,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it reminds me of. It's like this little rectangle slit on the bottom, towards the bottom of the floor. And for the tunnels, it's more towards your face,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it has this little door that you lift up, and that's what they had to talk through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was all around. So,
It was only down that one
Well,
section.
I mean, in the different rooms.
Yeah.
So all down these different rooms.
And what they originally were used for is gun ports. So if prisoners were getting really ornery, they could just open fire from a secured location.
Yeah. They even had them in the chapel.
Yeah, even in the chapel,
Mhm.
which, I mean, no place is safe from a riot.
Yep.
in
No,
that avenue.
absolutely not. Yeah.
So the tunnels were the only place in the prison that wasn't taken over. And if you look at it today, you look at it and go, how was it not taken over? There's a door.
Mm-hmm.
That door was added after the prison closed. So that was just a solid wall. There was never a door there when it was in operation. So there's no way they could actually take it over.
Good
Thank
thing.
goodness.
Yeah.
Because that's the only place they had left.
It was,
Yeah,
because
that was it.
if there wasn't that, then they would have had complete control of the prison. And they essentially did. There was no way anybody was getting in to the prison grounds.
Right.
There was never enough guards. I mean, obviously, there's never enough guards to cover the population of a prison.
Right.
So, I mean, it would have been awful. The interesting thing is the only person that actually died during that, other than Miles and Smart, was Ted Roth.
Yeah.
No other guards were killed no other guards were killed during that time.
Which
Just
is way lucky.
way lucky.
It could have been so much worse.
It could have been a bloodbath.
Oh, yeah.
So the last thing I want to go over before we get into our actual investigation is here's a daily schedule of what the prison was like in 1970. So this would have been almost before it closed. And so there's a short line consisted of new inmates, protective custody inmates, and the kitchen crew. The main line consisted of the main prisoner population. At 6 a.m. count and short line was run for breakfast. When all men were accounted for, short line was run. New inmates, protective custody inmates, and cell house cleaners, or called swampers, went to breakfast. Main line ran next. At 10:30, short line was run for lunch. At 11, work crews came in. 11:30, count and main line was run for lunch. Mail and medication were distributed to the cells after lunch. And at 12:30, work crews went out. Change of shifts for guards and account. Short line ran for dinner. Then the work crews returned. Afternoon yard, which is outside recreation. Inmates returned to their cells. Count and main line ran for dinner. Mail call and medication. And then outside recreation, television, hobby shop, self-help groups like AA. And then showers when inmates came in from recreation. Clean clothes, cigarettes were issued. Kitchen crew and those who had outside recreation could go to the television room or return to their cells. And then a final count.
Okay, mind you, the television room, that television is like 10
Itty-bitty.
inches.
Tube TV.
It's
It's
tiny.
a tiny, tiny, tiny little thing.
Yeah, I can't imagine anyone really being able to watch television in there. I mean,
I'm sure they did, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when you've got nothing else, you'll take whatever you can get.
That's right.
Yeah.
So there's actually one more thing we need to talk about.
What's that?
Turkey Pete.
The most famous inmate, even more famous than Jerry and Lee.
Yep. Okay. So at the age of 40, Paul Eitner, or Turkey Pete, was sentenced to life in prison for murder in 1918. As a model prisoner, he was assigned to attend the prison's turkeys. But as the years passed, reality slipped away from him, and one day a man stopped to admire the turkeys, and Turkey Pete sold the man the entire prison flock for 25 cents each. This ended his farming days, but marked the beginning of a new career as an entrepreneur and a philanthropist. So inmates humored Turkey Pete by printing him checks in the prison print shop, and he purchased the prison and proceeded to run it. And didn't he write a check for $1 million
Something like that.
They had to buy the prison.
to buy
To
the
buy
prison?
it.
Yeah. And then he paid all the prison expenses and wrote checks for the guards and their salaries. Mind you, these are fake, right?
Yeah.
He saved Brazil's coffee shop, sold pink alligators, purchased alfalfa seed, and sold grasshopper legs. And he sold ships to the Navy.
Wow.
He's
accomplished.
no
Yeah.
kidding.
But I mean, all the other inmates and the staff there at the prison, they humored him because obviously he wasn't all there anymore.
No, and they kind of let him roam around.
Yeah. Yeah. They considered him pretty harmless, compared to
And it
his
makes-
younger days.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure he'd forgotten what type of person he was.
He did.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the interesting thing about that prison is what we see today is not all of what was the prison because they had they had fields, it was a fully self-sustained building
Yes.
or complex, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah. And honestly, if I were to be in a prison, I would want something like that so that I would have something to do,
Right?
something to look forward to,
I would rather stay busy.
accomplishment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I would
Exactly.
feel more accomplishment if I was farming or, harvesting or
selling the turkeys for 25
selling
cents
all the
a head.
turkeys,
Right?
selling ships to the Navy,
Right. Pink alligators.
grasshopper legs.
Yeah.
Ew. I can only imagine how that started.
There's a lot of grasshoppers out
Can you
there.
imagine him like watching this old guy trying to catch all these little grasshoppers.
Put them all in a jar. Or picking them up, pulling their legs off, putting the legs in a jar, and then tossing the rest of the bug to the ground.
Ew.
Those poor
That poor-
grasshoppers.
No kidding.
Aw.
Jeez. So our investigation, it was 12 hours. That's the one reason why I think one of the reasons why we keep coming back to this place is you
Yeah.
get the prison from 7 at night to 7 in the morning.
Which is amazing.
It's so fun, guys.
But
And
even-
it goes by so fast.
Yeah, even though it's 12 hours, it's like it flies by.
It honestly feels like 5 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does
Really?
not feel long.
No.
Mm-mm.
No.
And, we always stop to get, usually around midnight, 1 o'clock, get something to eat, kind of get something to drink.
Yeah.
Take a little bit of a break because you can't go 12 hours full strong the whole time. But
We
even-
did mostly.
We did. But even with a
Mostly.
short break, even with a 35, 40-minute break, it still goes by super quick.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we have yet to cover the entire prison in one night.
Well,
That's how big the place is.
not only that, but it just depends on your investigation style. Like for us, I know we like to stay in a location for a little while because, you never know.
Well, and sometimes it's like you're like, okay, we've got something good going on, and you just
Yeah.
stay there until it doesn't feel like there's anything there anymore. And then sometimes you get there and you're like, nothing.
Yeah.
I'm not getting anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you just end up going within 30 minutes,
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it really just depends.
And there's still one place we have yet to investigate in that entire complex.
Which is what?
The
The
library.
Yeah, we had mentioned that before, and
But wasn't the door locked?
Nope. The door's wide open.
it was
What?
wide open for us.
We could have walked right in.
I thought we checked it and the door was locked.
No.
That door was locked. You had to go
The
through the other
other-
side.
The other way was
Oh.
open.
Pooh, I didn't even know.
Yeah, you go through the memorial section for the police officers and
Mhm.
highway patrolmen.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You go through that section
Yes.
and then boop right in the library.
Got it.
But where'd we start off?
We started off in the Death Tower.
Well,
Yes,
you
we
guys did.
Well, you came up there too. You brought the camera up. You set it up, but he forgot the buns back at the Airbnb, so he had to run up to the Safeway to get buns. And so Elisa and I actually started off the night up in the Death Tower.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you guys did.
Mm-hmm.
But the interesting thing is I had my own experience while I was going to get buns. So you have to go when you go into the prison, we have to go through a locked gate and then through the sally port and into the prison grounds. And so you go opposite direction. Well, I'm unlocking the gate to get out and I open up the gate and I look in the car and there is sitting what looks like it's a young man, short hair, thin, sitting in the passenger seat, but he's not there as in a whole body. I can only just make out his head. And then I turn around and look and he's gone. And I get into the car. I'm like, no, you have to stay here.
He's trying to hitch a ride.
That's right. He wanted out prison, man.
He did. He wanted out of prison. He was trying to get a prison break. Which is really neat because it's not the first time I've seen an apparition in the prison.
Yeah.
So it's always neat to see something like that, even when you're not actually investigating. Because I was just going to go to the store real quick.
Yeah.
Still light outside.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
still light
It wasn't
outside.
quite dark yet.
That tells you don't have to wait till it's dark.
Nope.
That's right.
Place is still haunted during the day.
Yeah.
So while I was gone, what happened up in the Death Tower?
So right at the very, very beginning, within 2 minutes of being in there, we get a heavy breath EVP that we don't hear audibly, but we caught it on the recorder. So
We actually caught it on a camera too.
yeah,
Thing is when you hear the breath, it sounds male.
it does sound male.
Even though it's just a breath, it's like you can listen to it. And I was like, dude, that's male.
Well, and how you can tell the difference between an EVP breath and like our own.
Yeah.
We actually had times where we were taking a breath and you could hear it and how clear it is.
Yes.
And how, I don't even know, like the distance sounds different.
It does.
So go ahead and play the clip and then you'll be able to hear the breath.
Was it Jerry Miles or was it Jerry and him? I don't remember. Was it Jerry Miles or was it Jerry and him? I don't remember.
Okay, if you notice how that echoes at the end,
That is loud, that breath.
that
Yeah,
breath,
it's
and it,
super loud.
I didn't know this until now, but it echoes.
Yeah.
Because that room is echoey.
Oh, that room is. But yeah, the room itself was super echoey.
Yeah.
And now this sounds to me very much like a male breath.
Uh-huh.
Like it just has that,
Deeper sounding breath in it.
And the thing is the only male that was up there, not even at the time, but in the very beginning was Josh. But at this point, when this happened, Elise and I are like, we're trying to figure out what the other inmate's name was of the murder suicide that happened in that very tower where we were
Mm-hmm.
when that come through. But Josh was at the store.
Yeah. Nobody was even up there.
There was nobody in that tower but Elisa and myself. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's pretty cool.
that is. I don't know. All this stuff is really neat when
Yeah.
you hear it.
So it was just Jamie and I. And Jamie started talking about how she started to feel really down. Remember that?
Yeah.
And so I gave her some selenite and an angel stone before we went up to the Death Tower. And so she had been holding on to that. And then I kind of felt like instantly Jamie's dad just show up.
Which
And-
was so cool.
Yeah. And like in my head, I hear like, I'm here and you didn't even have to ask me.
Which
And-
is so true because I always ask him, and this time I did not.
So what are the odds that I would get that? And I tell her, and you didn't even have to tell. I would have not known that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known that you didn't ask him because you always ask him.
I
to
always
show.
ask him, like, before we go on the road trip.
Yeah.
I have this necklace, the Tree of Life necklace, and it has some of my dad's ashes in it. And I always bring it on investigations. And I always say when I put that on before we leave the house, hey, Dad, I hope you can come along. I hope you can be
Mhm.
there. I didn't do that this time.
Which is so cool. So it just kind of gives validation, right? So Jamie got super excited about it and we talked about it for a little bit. But then all of a sudden it got really heavy for me. And I just kind of felt like my whole body had like a lot of pressure on it. Like I was kind of getting pushed into the ground. We're just sitting on the floor. I'm sitting on one wall. She's sitting on another. And I just felt this heaviness come over my whole body. And it was kind of like I felt as if I was least smart in the whole situation. So to give you an idea of what has happened, Lee Smart and Jerry Miles are lovers. Okay, so
that was the rumor.
The rumor.
The rumor.
We
So
don't know
we'll-
for sure.
Yeah, okay, so we'll just go with it. So in the rumor, it is that Lee Smart and Jerry Miles are lovers, if not good friends. And Lee Smart is younger and smaller, more petite, and Jerry Miles is older and kind of a bigger guy.
Yeah.
And when they did this whole riot thing, they go upstairs and Jerry Miles kills Lee Smart and then kills himself. Okay. So I feel like I'm him and I'm just kind of experiencing this whole situation. Now, honestly, for me, I've never really felt that before where I've experienced a situation that's happened. So for me, it was kind of like I was watching it in a movie.
Yeah, like it was playing out right before you.
Yeah, and it was kind of odd, and it didn't even matter if I was having conversations. I was still like watching it in my head play out. So I was like, okay, we'll just see how this goes. And I kind of watched the whole thing, whether that actually happened or not, how it was played out in my mind, I don't know. But I kind of got the feeling that that he felt innocent in the whole thing.
Lee Smart.
Yeah,
The smaller
not
guy.
necessarily innocent, but more like, oh crap, I didn't think it would come to this.
Right. It wasn't supposed to go down like this.
It wasn't supposed to go down this way. And I felt really innocent in the whole thing. Like, and I felt like there was a gun pointed at my face and I was like, no, I don't want this to happen, you know, and I didn't think you were going to do this or that this was going to happen this way and don't do this kind of a feel. And then it happens and he dies and then I kind of watch him circle and like run his hands over his head and like
Jerry
he's
Miles,
nervous.
the
Jerry
bigger guy.
Miles, yes. And like he's nervous and like, crap, what do I do? And I don't want to do this, but I got to do this, and kills himself.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden everything, all the pressure and all of the feelings just stopped. As soon as he died in this little vision that I'm having, all the pressure and everything stops.
Just dissipated, huh?
Completely. And I didn't feel anything after that. So that was quite interesting for me. Whether that was like honestly like a real thing that happened, I don't know.
I don't think anyone really knows because the only two people who could have told you what happened in that room were
Are
both
them.
dead.
Yep. So that was kind of interesting. But then we stay quiet for a while. And I actually on my recorder, I heard a really quiet breath and then a couple of steps, but it's not loud enough for us to play for you guys. But I will tell you kind of the EVPs that I got along the way. But not all of them we're going to have you guys listen to because a lot of them are quiet. EVPs tend to be more on the quiet side.
They do.
And not worth playing over because you're going to listen to it and you're like, I don't really hear it, you know? But that was pretty neat. Okay, so we'll play a clip for you.
Yeah. So this takes place as Elisa's retelling what's happening, what she's seeing in her mind, and then Jamie responds back saying the big one shot the little one.
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
just clarifying to make sure that I have it right.
Yes.
Was it the big one that shot the little one? Yeah.
Yeah. Is that okay?
Is that
breathy.
okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, real soft, real breathy. It sounds a lot louder now because, or at least through our headphones,
Our headphones, yeah.
because we kind of have things turned up a little bit, but it is very soft.
And that's what you'll notice with a lot of EVPs is that they're
Mhm.
very breathy. So that's not uncommon.
No.
Very normal thing. So after that, Josh comes in and tells us about his experience.
Huffing and puffing all the way up the four
Oh,
flights
I know.
of stairs.
It is quite a climb. It goes up and around for a while. So.
Yeah.
But then you get the flux out and Jamie gets out her rods and we kind of do a session where they're both going at the same time.
Yeah.
I really liked this session. I thought it was very interesting and almost like we learned some new things that we didn't think of before.
Mm-hmm. And what was cool was that we got correlating evidence. In other words, the flux went off and said yes.
Mhm.
And at the same time, Jamie's rods crossed for yes.
Yeah.
So the flux, for people that don't know, it's this pyramid looking thing. And on one side it has a green light and on one a red. So if you ask yes or no questions, a spirit can light up the green for yes or the red for no.
Yeah. And we've had various success with this. Like we've had it just sit there and do nothing for a very, very long period of time. And we've had it do we've had some very good yes, no answer sessions with it.
Mm-hmm.
So we
It's
know
a mixed bag.
it's such a mixed bag. In this case, in this session, we didn't get too many responses with it.
No, we didn't. We kind of more relied on the rods than we did the flux.
We did.
But I asked if the person that was there with us was the young man that was with you in the car.
Yeah.
And that's when the flux said yes and Jamie's rod said yes at the same time,
Yeah.
which was super cool. And he said that like when we were asking questions, he said that he felt like he couldn't, or that he could get out but didn't know how. He just had to find it.
Yeah. He was searching.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing it's where he was like, I know a way to get out and hitch a ride with him.
Yeah. Yeah. But the one thing that I thought was really interesting, though, is we were asking questions. He kept saying that there were rules.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then there were guards.
And that there were guards. And also that I do, if I remember correctly, that it was God who made the rules and wouldn't let them out.
Yeah. And I think we narrowed it down to not really God, but more people who were sent there to say, okay, let's keep this place in check,
Yeah.
kind of thing is what the rods
Let's
ended up.
enforce the rules.
Yeah. It wasn't God, but someone that, like,
maybe they looked at like
yeah,
they rule this area.
I don't know.
It's hard to say.
it was a strange
Yeah.
conversation in that avenue.
Yeah.
I know it was the gatekeeper.
It was the gatekeeper. But it was, I mean, like I said, that was like it was one of the most interesting conversations we've had on rods, because it was just, we were asking questions to which we had no rational like conception of what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Well, and I think for spirits, a lot of times dowsing rods are much easier to manipulate
Agreed.
than like an electronic device. So
Yeah. And
that's why we usually use rods at some point or another.
And he had a hard time even manipulating the rods too.
Yes.
Like he was sometimes you get those spirits who are like really fast responders, and the rods are just flying all over the place.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it seems more aggressive.
Yeah.
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 Or at least like strong.
Yes.
In this case, it was very soft and slow and like almost timid responses.
Yeah. But I think that was about all we did up there.
It is.
Right. But then we started going down the stairs and Lisa was leading the way.
I had a freaking cool experience, guys. Okay. This is like what topped it for me. This experience.
In the
Okay.
beginning of the night.
I know. I'm like, this is going to be a good night. So, we're walking down the first flight of stairs down. So we're on the 4th floor going to the 3rd. And it's narrow. The stairway is narrow and kind of blocked off. Well, I'm guessing the 3rd or the 4th step from the bottom. And all of a sudden I feel creeped out. You know, when you walk into a room and you're like, oh, this doesn't have good vibes in it.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel when I know that there is an entity that's around. So I got that creep factor, but I didn't take it. It happened so fast. I didn't process it fast enough. And for me, I'm just like, well, this is what I'm here for. Right. And I just kept walking down. And when I got to the last step, I wasn't on the ground yet, but I got to the last step. And from right to left, this white arm reaches out with its hand, looks like it's going to grab me around the stomach, and then like closes its fist and then pulls back really fast.
And out of
Like
sight.
it's grabbing
Yeah.
something right in front of me by my stomach and then pulls it back.
Yeah.
And all I saw was an arm and a hand about to the elbow, which I was like, oh my gosh, what was that? Like,
And then we're like, what?
and I instantly go on the search I get my flashlight. Because there's like rooms on each level, and I am looking for
Mhm.
anything. And then all of a sudden, like, I feel nothing. I don't feel creep factor. I don't feel
It was just gone.
anything. It was just gone. It happened it ended as quick as it started.
That's pretty cool.
So
That is neat.
I don't know. I have not seen something that visual. You know, anybody would have seen it. I wish we had a camera right there.
Oh,
I mean,
that
I
would have
had
been perfect.
here's the crazy part is I had a camera in my hands.
Yeah, but you were the third one. You were behind
There's
me.
no
and
way.
I was behind Elisa.
Yeah, I highly
There
doubt
was-
anything got picked up on that
Yeah.
camera.
No, we weren't going to see it.
Yeah.
You and I weren't going to see it.
And because we were there with Broken Wings, and Broken Wings had a camera facing.
The 2nd floor, though,
Well, and
It
we
was
were,
right at the bottom of those stairs. So the problem is that I don't think it was facing in the right
direction. Mhm.
to really catch that, because it was the way I'm envisioning this in my mind. It was very abrupt, like a 90-degree angle to the entrance of the door, and they were more like a 45 facing out. So I don't think it would have caught
Yeah.
any movement. And plus, the crazy thing is you can see things happening right in front of a camera, and the camera is empty.
Yep.
Yeah,
Or you can hear things audibly with your ears and it doesn't go on your recorders.
that's right.
So,
Which is always weird.
yeah. Anyway, so then we head to the administrative building. So Jamie gets out the Ovulus and Josh the Flux, and we did an EMF sweep of the area, and it stayed about like a 2 or a 0.2 to a 0.4. I got my trimeter out.
Yeah, the tri-field.
Trifield, that's what it's called, and was sweeping around the area. And we never really got like really good spikes. I mean,
Unless you're by the switch.
yeah,
By that one switch, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that one switch was crazy.
Mm-hmm. But that's why it's good to see where the EMF is coming from, and
Well,
Yeah.
and
all
kind of
of
like
that.
a base reading of the
Mhm.
room and stuff.
because that way you want to do that. So then when you sit down and you have these EVP sessions or whatever it is that you're doing, if you do get spikes and you're not in an area where you're actively getting EMF, then you can more put that towards the paranormal side versus, oh, that was just the light above.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can rule out
a cell
environmental
phone.
factors like
Yes.
lights and stuff
Right.
around you.
And we even checked our cell phones too and made sure we had our cell
Airplane
phones off
mode.
in airplane
Yep.
mode
Yes.
and everything. So the one interesting thing about the administration building, before we get too far, is this is where the deputy warden's office is at, where he was killed. But also, all new inmates would come into this building, and the spot that we were investigating is where they go through all their processing, filling out all their paperwork and everything else. And then you go through this door, and they get their photos taken, and then the door beyond that is
Into the yard.
into the yard, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like that's the last bit. Their tiny little bit of freedom is right there, and then it's gone.
Yeah.
So then the ovulus was starting to spurt out words like crazy. Like normally it's just going to sit there
Yeah. Normally it does just sit there.
and you don't really hear anything.
No.
And every once in a while you'll get a word. But
word
this
or
one
two.
was like word, 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 word.
Almost like someone was playing with
Like
it.
fiddling with it almost.
Like just, randomly spitting out words.
Yeah. And nothing was really making any sense.
No, it was It was just very random words.
Except when Jamie and I were sitting there and I was picking up on an entity and I was like, Jamie, let's see if you can pick up on it. And so I'm like, Jamie, you should focus in on it and see if you can describe it to me.
Yeah.
Well, all of a sudden, here comes the ovulus and it's like arm, hand, foot, describe.
Yeah.
And we were like, what? Now you're going to actually mean something we're trying to say? It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Because I was like, Jamie, what does his hair look like? Arm, hand, foot, describe.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
But what was cool was that, so I was picking up on one entity. She was actually picking up on another. And I'm not realizing that there's another one in there. And she's describing this person. I was like, oh, no.
And where they're standing and everything. And
Yeah,
she's
and
like,
I'm
wait
like,
a minute.
No, hold on. Okay, let's see if we're picking up on two different actual people, right? So then I kind of disconnect from the one, try to connect with the other. And I'm like, oh yeah, she's describing exactly what I'm feeling. And she tells me exactly where it's at. And it's right behind me. So I hurried and went over and put my hand there. And it was like 20 degrees colder. Like it was ice cold. So I put my hand in there. I'm like, that is so cold. I reach over, grab the tri-field meter, stick it over there, and my hand's warm. It's not even cold in that spot anymore.
Yeah, he took off.
I was like, dang, that would have been so cool to get that. I wish I would have brought it that first time when I went over there to feel. But yeah, freezing cold. I was kind of shocked, to be honest. I wasn't expecting it to be that cold because generally you'll feel like a cool breeze almost.
Sure. But not like frigid like that.
But not frigid. That was frigid.
Interesting enough, in that room, right? The very first time we investigated that room, it was 18 degrees outside.
Yeah. The buildings were every bit as cold.
Yeah,
too.
buildings were every bit as cold. We got gloves on, we got hats on,
Scarves.
all of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
There's a cold spot. So we take our gloves off, and you can feel a cold spot that is 10 degrees colder than the air temperature.
And the air
Crazy.
temperature was freezing.
But that's not how it was this time. This time it was actually warm.
That's because we did it not in November.
Yeah. It was warm outside. It was a great night for
Yeah.
investigating.
Awesome
But,
night.
Yeah.
Light jackets is really what it was.
Yeah.
And even inside the building, you didn't even need your jacket.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, so there was no reason for it to be that much colder in that spot and to be gone just as fast. But then we had her focus on the entity that I was focusing on, and then she described it to a T, which was awesome. So this guy that I pictured, he was like this, like a dirty blonde hair, round face, male, mid-20s. And then she described, she's like, he's got like prison pants on and a light blue shirt. And it was really cool because we brought out the SLS, which is basically the Connect, and it can pick up like stick figures, right? And we're going through, and not that it can pick up, oh, this dude's got blonde hair and blue eyes. You know, it's not that. It's just like the height. And we picked up so many different things on the SLS. One that was like, it was picking up like the drawers,
The cabinet.
the cabinet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was acting as if that was a person. So you have to like rule that out. Like, okay, that's not it.
The bookshelf
The bookshelf. Yeah.
in the hallway. We spent, I don't know, a good 10 minutes trying to figure out
Yeah.
what
so
was happening in that spot.
Because we want to debunk as much as possible because we want to make this as real. We don't want to take everything as evidence, right? So this one, it was right next to Jamie, and she was sitting on a desk or
I was in a chair, but
in
in
a
front
chair.
of a desk.
Yes, and this entity was like a spider looking. Like, I mean, it looked like a person, but squatting, I don't know, weird on the desk.
In front, the desk in front of me. It was
So weird. And then all of a sudden it was like on the wall behind her and like crawling up the wall like a spider.
That is creepy.
Yeah, that was really weird. It just jumped up and went, gone.
Yeah. It was weird.
That's weird.
I've only ever seen that one other time before on the SLS.
And we tried a lot to actually try to debunk that too,
Uh-huh.
trying to figure out
trying to recreate it.
trying to what we could catch and so what was it mapping? Was it mapping something different? And that's when we found out that it would map the filing cabinets.
Yes. So we actually had a few different things that the Connect picked up on, or that the SLS picked up on. Then we got one that was by the wall and the door. And it was weird because it was like it had its hand on the wall, like, or not on the wall, on the door frame. Like, it looked like it was like leaning up against the
Being
door
all
frame.
suave. I'm cool. I'm one cool cat. Yeah.
It was pretty funny. So then Jamie, she needs this, her sugars are getting low, and gets this Butterfinger, and she starts waving it in the air. She's like, "Do you like candy? I brought some." And then we get an answer. So let's play that clip.
Do you like candy? I brought some.
So if you hear it at the very end, you hear a no.
It's a male,
Male voice, yeah.
and he's really breathy, and he goes, no.
So let's play that one more time.
Do you like candy? I brought some.
Yeah, so he doesn't like your candy, Jamie.
Well, no wonder he's in prison if you don't like candy.
How can you not like candy?
Well, maybe it was the type of candy because it was a Butterfinger, so maybe he doesn't like Butterfinger.
Yeah, possibly.
Or maybe it was just the wrong candy.
Always possible.
And then we turned on the portal and asked if there were any spirits with us. And right off the bat, we got me.
Yep.
So that's kind of what it is. It just goes through
The radio station.
the radio stations.
Yeah, it sweeps through 'em.
It's like the SB7 Spirit Box,
Mm-hmm.
except it adds a little bit of reverb to it.
So you don't hear all the ch-ch-ch-ch,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It cuts out that background.
and it just kind of shoots out words.
Yeah.
Which is good because there's not a lot of radio stations in Deer Lodge.
No. In fact,
No.
we tried the portal a few times and literally we got nothing. Nothing.
It's just
Yeah.
quiet.
So then we went over to the warden's office and we just left our stuff there going. So I left my recorder there. You left a camera there to try to see if we could catch anything while we went off and took a break.
Yep.
And there were quite a few bangs that I got on my recorder, and some were on the metal bars. So play that clip.
There's footsteps that follow that.
Yeah,
Like
that-
boot steps.
So there's like 4 bangs.
Right. But do you hear the.
Well,
No, they're footsteps if you listen to them.
okay, let's listen to him again. So after the bangs, you hear the
Yeah.
Footsteps.
There's-
Duh.
There's like boots, like a man walking.
but it's quiet. But yeah,
And it's
But
quiet.
it's there.
It's there.
that's
it's
cool.
there.
So there are. So if you're wondering if there's not bars in there because it's an admin building, there are bars. There's a guard cage
Mm-hmm.
In the entrance.
at the entrance, which is only about 15 feet away from the warden's office door where we had the stuff sit, and then. On the other side, there are the visitation cages. So there's all chain link. And so there's metal and wood all over the place
Yeah.
in here.
So there was plenty to make those sounds,
Yes.
but nobody was in the building.
No.
Nobody.
All of the other people were in either the death tower or they were in maximum security. And then we were in the basement having something to eat.
Yeah.
So there was
in the
nobody
theater.
in the administration building at all.
No.
So that was pretty cool. So then after we get back, and I actually got quite a few different bangs and knocks throughout the hour that we were gone, but that was the most prominent one. So then we come back and Josh started using the rods, and we instantly got a connection with a female administration staff. And in the rods, we asked her how many years she worked there, and we asked her to tap the rods together to tell us how many years, and she tapped it twice. And then Josh, you asked if it was scary for her to work there, and she said yes, even though she was behind the glass.
Yeah.
And that she had started there from the beginning.
Yeah. So she would have been there early. She would have been probably in the early 50s when the building was built.
Mm-hmm. So then I took out the SLS and I caught another entity acting like a spider in the offices. And it popped over again by Jamie. So
Aw, man.
they like you.
The creepy ones
Either that or
like
they
me.
don't like your candy bar. So after that, we head over to East Siberia. And in there, it's very narrow and it's really small
And why do they call it Siberia?
because it's freezing cold.
Yeah. There's one heater in there, and it's
Mhm.
not very big. It's on the outer walls of the prison building itself. And so, like, it is super hot in the summer. It's super cold in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be awful in there.
It would be horrible. So, and it seems like there's like just the 2 cells that are right there in the.
Yeah. There's just 2 cells in East Siberia.
So I'm in one. You guys are outside the cells.
Yeah.
And
We-
eventually sit in.
Sit in another one. Yeah.
Yeah. And I got my tri-field meter out and it was staying pretty steady at 0.2. But then I got to jump to like a 1.8 and then a 0.8. And that's about as much activity as we got in there. It was pretty quiet.
It was. This is only the second time we've ever investigated East Siberia.
It's just so small. And every time we've ever gone in there, it just seems really quiet. Doesn't really feel like there's anything in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't get any EVPs. I didn't get anything in there. It was nothing. So then we head over to cellblock and we go to like the 3rd floor.
Oh, the 1912.
Oh, the 1912
The
cell block.
1912.
This place is huge. It's
It is.
4 floors of cells.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we start climbing up the catwalk.
Yeah. And to give you kind of a visual picture, a big block, like a big open square or rectangle space. And then inside that space, you have 4 stories inside that you can see from. So you can be on the bottom floor and you can see all the way up to the 4th. So when we go up, there's stairs that you go up, right? And then you have this catwalk on each level that's kind of thin and just goes all the way down on each side. And
Yeah.
it kind of makes this U shape.
Yeah.
So you can't go and circle it.
No.
So you have to go back down and around to go from one end to the other. But anyway, so we go to the cell block and we head up to the 3rd floor. And Jamie, she's like, oh, I feel like I just went through a cobweb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I seriously thought, and I was bringing up the tail end.
Yeah. You,
Uh-huh.
Like these 2 went before me. And then when I go through the area, I felt like I walked full on into like this big, thick cobweb.
And for me, right before that, I felt like I hit like, when you hit like one spiderweb string and you kind of feel it on your hands or your
Yeah.
arm, or whatever.
Like a hair.
Like a hair.
It feels like
a
hair.
sticky hair.
Yeah.
That's what I felt on my hand, but I didn't have any hair on me or anything like that. But then she gets it full on in her face.
Yeah. And see, I had my hair pulled back in a ponytail and I had a cap on my head.
Yeah.
so it's not
So-
any of your hair.
No,
Mhm.
because I put clips in and everything so that the hair doesn't come streaming out of my hat.
Yeah. And with me leading the way down the catwalk.
You would have had to have hit it first.
Yeah. I'm a full foot taller.
Well,
Not a
and-
foot taller, but I'm several inches taller than everybody else in the group.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it's narrow. It's not wide. So
No.
No.
there's no way that you would have not hit it.
I take up, like, as I'm walking down, I take up most of the walkway walking
Yeah.
down.
And mind you guys, this is actually pretty clean. Like
It is really. Yeah.
it's not, we've been to cell blocks where it is dirty.
Oh, yeah.
It is there's dirt and bugs and everything else on the floor, spiders everywhere. That's not how this is. This is
No.
actually pretty clean.
Yeah.
And this area that we're in is not open to the public.
No.
No.
But anyway, so Jamie and I were going through the rooms to see how they were set up, and we noticed that there was these hooks on the walls, and we're like, why do they have these hooks on the walls? So then we kind of separate, and I'm gonna look down here and see. And Josh had left for a little bit and was on his way back, and I think you were getting the portal.
Were you getting the portal, or were you changing out a memory card when the cameras? I don't remember.
I think you.
That's one of the two, or
Anyway,
both.
so you left and you were on your way back. You were actually just at the entrance of the 3rd level. You had actually walked up to the 4th level and then had to come back down.
Oh, I did. I walked too far.
Yeah. And then you came back down. But I am probably 6 cells down from where Jamie is, and which is about 2/3 of the way down the cell blocks. Okay. And I get the creep vibe again, and I feel it for about 5 seconds, and it's pretty strong. It's kind of like I run into a wall, right? Sometimes when you walk into a room, it's literally like a wall that you walk through of just icky. Anyways, I feel it for about 5 seconds, and then right above my head, it's like a heel hits the floor really hard.
Like it stomps.
Like a stomp. Just
Yeah.
one single stomp, and it's really loud. And so we'll play that for you.
And we all heard this, even if
Mhm.
I'm on the end of the catwalk.
Yeah, you're at the other end, and it's a long cell block.
Whoa, did you hear that?
What was that?
It was a bang right above my head.
Whoa, so it was on the top floor?
Yeah.
Whoa, did you hear that?
What was that?
It was a bang right above my head.
Whoa, so it was on the top floor?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it was so loud, you could hear the vibration
Yeah.
of this foot stomp.
Well, yeah, because I was further back, and so I'm trying to figure out if someone tripped
Mm-mm.
or hit something, because it's dark.
I mean,
Can't
how
really
many
see.
feet do you think you are away from me?
30.
It seems like more than that, but yeah.
I was already walking up. I was already walking down the catwalk.
Okay. Yeah. So, but yeah, we all heard it. There's zero reason why that should have happened.
Yeah.
And so you guys understand, we're walking on concrete.
Yeah.
These are concrete floors that we're walking on. So it's not like any one of us could stomp our foot down and make that type of bang, because there wasn't anything to kick.
No, and we even did it, and it didn't even give off that vibration
No.
that this one did. So Josh went down to see if it would happen to him, and Jamie and I stay back a little bit, and he gets nothing. So then Josh is like, well, maybe it's a girl thing, maybe because I'm female that it happened. And so Jamie goes out, and she tells us like, oh, I feel like goosebumps and like something's there, but not making itself known. But she feels like something's like they're watching you, right? So after that, we go through the cells and we're looking at all the designs that were there. A lot of people would color on the walls.
Right on the walls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Draw.
Poetry.
All sorts of stuff.
You get if you're there for a long period of time, you got nothing better to do with your time.
Yeah.
There was this one cell that had so much writing on it. I mean, it was all over the walls and the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
It was crazy.
And it was tiny writing.
Yeah.
Tiny and close together, and just sentences and sentences.
I was impressed with how good of condition it was in.
Yeah.
I mean, there was paint peeling off the walls.
Yeah, good old lead paint.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, considering it was impressive how much was actually still there.
Yeah. And I believe I posted some of these pictures of the drawings and the words and the artwork on these walls on our Facebook stuff.
Yeah, and we'll post more. We'll come back and we'll post more stuff as this episode comes out too.
Yes.
Yeah. And then Jamie noticed that there was a cell that had a list of prices for an item that he was selling. And it went from like 100 down to 75 to 50 or whatever. And
To
it kept-
25 was the other one.
What was he selling? Do you remember?
I don't remember, but I did take a picture of it.
Well, it seems
So-
like there was like cigarettes. It said cigs on there.
Oh, he would trade for 2 packs of cigarettes.
Yes.
Yes.
And there was a hook at the top.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because they had, if you can picture, they had these cabinets, also just this one set of cabinets with 2 doors. And it was on the door, right?
Mhm.
So I'm wondering if it was on the door and they left the door open so that people were walking by, they could see what he had listed for sale.
Well,
Because there was a hook
yeah.
on there too that you could hang something from.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was on the inside of the cabinet or on the outside. Either way, it was listed there. Something was for sale.
Yeah.
So there was like trading and all that stuff going on.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I mean, that's in every prison.
Bartering, whatever.
Still
Yeah.
to this day, right? So then we go up to the 4th level because we kind of want to see where this sound came from. And we didn't really film much up there. But what we did notice is that where this stomp came from, the room was painted all black except for the ceiling. But on the ceiling around the light switch or the light bulb in the middle was a black spider web that went all the way around it, which I thought was interesting because a lot of these people, not that I don't know if they were given a lot of different colors to pick from, right? Because I think most of it was black, but they gave it like a border, so it would only go up maybe 3/4 of the way up the wall, to kind of give it just a little bit of depth or whatever. But this one was like all black.
It was really odd.
It was
It was really
quite strange.
dark. Yeah.
Yeah. So it just kind of was interesting. I don't know if those two are correlated or not, but it was interesting that the darkest looking room or cell that there was where this, in front of where this stomp happened.
Yeah, that is strange.
It is. Yeah.
I mean, the original reason why we went up to those floors was we were looking for a specific cell too.
Yeah. We were down at the end.
Yeah, which we determined, I think, was on 2nd floor because we looked through every cell and couldn't find the devil cell.
So explain what you're talking about.
Can't remember.
There was supposed to be this one inmate there that was just super like satanic and all that. And if I remember correctly, it was up on the 4th floor of the catwalk, down at the end.
But we looked there, and so it was actually on the 2nd floor.
I think so. I don't
Yeah,
really know. I do think that if someone wants to know, you can go back and maybe watch Ghost Adventures. I don't know that I would.
Well, when we were there with on a previous trip, we found that cell.
Yeah.
So it's still there.
Yeah, but I don't know which one it is. I remember it being the 4th floor down towards the end.
It's definitely on the end, but I thought it was 2. So, but this is the interesting thing though, is either if we missed it on the 4th floor or it is on the 2nd floor.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing is it's still on the same side on the end where the bang came from.
True. Yep.
So that in itself is very interesting.
But when we were up on the 4th floor and we went to the other side, because we started off on one side and then we kind of went to the other side. At one point, I'm going through each cell, walking into each cell and looking for writing, drawings, and taking photos and stuff. And Josh and Elisa sat down towards the very end, and she was kind of sitting down on the concrete on the catwalk. And then Josh was sitting quite a few feet down from her.
Few cells down.
And I'm a couple, 2-3 cells down from, I don't remember which direction.
You're from Josh.
Okay. But I was kind of standing in the doorway of one of the cells.
Okay. Before this though.
Okay.
Before this. So, Josh hears, because we sit down to try to do a portal session. Right. I still have my recorder going, so it's still considered an EVP session as well, because we're still asking questions.
Right.
And Josh hears a single footstep behind him. I couldn't catch it on my recorder, but he heard it. And he actually hears it a couple of times.
Right.
And then we asked, and then we hear this bang. So then I asked if it could do the bang again so we could hear it on the recorder.
Right.
And so on the recorder, I hear footsteps and then a bang down the hall. And almost immediately after, that's when Jamie.
Yeah, because I was in the doorway of a cell down from Josh, and I'm kind of standing sideways in this doorway where the bars would close. And on the right side that was facing into the jail cell, I hear someone exhale really loud.
Another breath.
Yes, another breath, male, in that cell.
So if you can imagine.
That's kind of creepy, honestly.
Yeah, because you're standing there by yourself.
Yeah, I was by myself.
And then you hear.
And it was just in the right ear, the one that's facing in towards the cell. I was right in the doorway, but yeah.
Did you feel anything?
Well, it made,
I'm sure you got the goosebumps.
I got goosebumpies.
Right.
Because.
But what I'm saying is, could you feel the breath on your skin?
No, I did not. It was almost like it was in the back of the cell. And these cells are not big.
No.
But I was just in the doorway, and the right side of my body was in, and the left side was more on the catwalk.
Yeah.
And I heard it in the cell, like at the back of the cell.
I think the cells are 6x8.
Yeah,
They're
not-
little.
They're little. They're not big.
And they were double occupancy cells.
Yes, they were.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of room for two people to be hanging out in.
No.
No. So then we're kind of sitting there for a little bit, but then we hear another bang right below us. But it wasn't as loud as the one that we heard down the hall or down the catwalk, I guess, if you will, because it's all open anyway. So the portal session again was a fail because all we got was static.
Yeah.
We didn't get a single word. I remember Josh was like, if this thing goes off, I'm going to freak out.
Yeah. Because I mean, it was right next to me.
Because if you imagine, a lot of the times when we're doing investigating, we're quiet.
Yeah.
We're not talking. Sometimes we're just sitting and listening. And every once in a while, we'll ask a question. But we were just pretty quiet. And that's when like Josh was like, if this thing goes off, it's going to freak me out.
The other thing I was thinking too, because we're sitting there, we're actually like sitting on the edge of the catwalk. So our legs are dangling
Yeah, we're-
over the edge.
You're waiting for something to like tickle your foot or grab your
Or
ankle.
down.
Grab it, yeah.
Pull you down.
Like that would have been super pucker factor.
I made sure that I was sitting in between a pole so that I could hold on to it. And then if something pulled me down, I could grip on to the other side.
Yep.
See what horror movies have done to us?
I was willing to take the risk. So then we head down to the tunnels. And we had described the tunnels before, so just put that in your mind. And right off, Jamie and Josh heard a footstep, and we heard a tap down the hall.
Yeah.
Like almost like it was on wood or something.
Yeah. It sounded like, so you know, at the end of that, the tunnel, there's those bars, and then on the other side, there's bars. There's a bunch of stuff in there.
Yes.
That's where it sounded like it
Uh-huh.
was coming from.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And after about 15 minutes, we hear, it's like 14 minutes or something, we hear a pebble get tossed.
Yeah.
And we had talked about it. We had talked about like, oh, there's pebbles. I wonder if they can like toss a pebble for us. Or, and then you were talking about wanting to use one of them to tumble.
In a
'cause-
rock tumbler.
to get a rock tumbler and do that. So we had that conversation, and then we hear this pebble get thrown or tossed or
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. And so we asked, okay, well, could you do one a little bit closer to us? And then instantly we get a knock. So we'll play that clip for you. Can you do one closer? Because that was pretty far away. Was that you?
No.
That
Yeah,
sounded
you
like they're
idiot.
knocking
Why was
on.
that?
It sounded like it was knocking on wood.
It did
Yeah,
sound like
it
knock
did.
on wood.
But where
So-
we're at is all concrete.
the only wood is the ramp.
But we weren't anywhere near it. We're down towards the other
Yeah,
side.
we're on
Right.
the other end.
So, but the ramp that leads in from
Yes.
Yes.
the new way to get in, there's a little wooden ramp, and
Yes.
that's kind of what I had in my
Uh-huh.
mind when I was hearing like the knock. I thought they were knocking on that piece of wood.
Yeah.
It sounded closer to me,
It did.
but who knows? So anyways, that was a pretty good instant response
Yeah.
because we hear that knock or we hear that little pebble being tossed. We're like, oh, can you do that a little bit closer to us? And then instant, got it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is so cool. I love when stuff like that happens. But then we realized that time's running out, and unfortunately, and so we're like, we have not hit maximum security yet, which is
Right.
also where the women's prison is.
But I want to say, though, when we walked over to Max before we actually started investigating for the night, remember
Mm-hmm.
we walked over there, put a camera. Remember the experience we had there with one of the female inmates?
How we started the night before.
That's how we started the night.
Yes.
We weren't really investigating at that time.
No, we
No.
were just placing a steel cam in there.
So tell me what happened.
You're the one that
I don't
picked
remember.
up on it.
Oh.
I don't
the
remember.
woman, remember? She was like, yeah, I run this place. And
Oh, yes.
with the attitude. I think her
Uh-huh.
name was Heather.
Her name was Heather,
Uh-huh.
and she claimed that she ran the woman's prison and that you needed to give her respect.
And she'll give respect back.
She'll get respect back, but if you don't, she's out.
Yeah. Well, and don't cross her, you know. She was like, yeah, nobody would mess with me.
And she had a mouth on her. Like, the way that she was talking was like...
My poo don't stink?
Sassy. Yeah.
Super sassy.
Super sassy. And very, like, she will debate you and have an argument with you in 2 seconds flat if you went up to her. You know what I mean?
I was ready.
Right? But then she was like, but if you show me respect, I'll give it to you back. You know what I mean? And
yes.
so...
And, and this is just a reminder, you can quabble or squabble or whatever with a spirit, but there's a difference between that and like being disrespectful.
Yes.
Always remember, no matter what kind of spirit you're dealing with, even an honorary prisoner, you still show respect.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I remember the interesting thing, though, is you asked her if she threw her honey bucket.
Yeah, I did.
And she's like, no, I didn't have to.
Yeah.
I laughed when other people did it,
Yep.
but I didn't do it.
Yeah.
She was a character.
Yeah. And we told her we'd be coming back and hopefully we could come back and talk to her again. And so I at the end, before we left, I said, well, thank you for your time. I appreciate you talking with us. And Lisa's like, yeah, she just kind of leaning against the wall and she just kind of,
Tosses her head
tossed her head up like, yeah.
So,
Okay, so in maximum security, we start off trying to do the Estes method and didn't get a single word.
No.
Nothing.
That was probably the worst Estes method we've ever had. We've always had pretty good luck with it.
we've also had very good luck with Estes method.
But this time it was nothing.
Nothing.
Just nothing.
And so after about 11 minutes or so, I just turned it off.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked how many spirits were with us. And I'm doing a live EVP session at this point, which is where I have my recorder and I have headphones plugged into my recorder so that I can actually hear everything that it's recording. And everything's amplified, right? And I hear down the hall when I asked that question, I heard a man mumbling. So if you can picture, it's kind of almost split into two different sections. And the side that we were on was the right side, but there's also a left side that has a few cells down that way.
It actually it's actually a horseshoe.
Yes.
So we were actually kind of like in the middle of a U.
Yes.
And there's essentially a hallway that goes all the way around where we were at.
Yeah. So, and I hear a man mumbling, and I caught it on my recorder, but it's not good enough for us to have you guys listen to. But it was interesting that I got a response because it was like, And it's funny because a lot of the times when you get an EVP, it's mumbly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's breathy. It's mumbly. It can be quiet.
The mumbly part reminds me of like when you're in a hotel room and you hear the person that you share a wall with in the next room and they're talking.
Having a conversation.
But you can't hear the conversation.
But you know it's there.
You know it's there.
Yes.
That's what that's
yes.
like.
Yeah.
So, and right after that, and I'm telling you guys this, like, I heard something. And then Josh is looking around and he's like, I just saw a shadow walk across the cell. Do you remember that?
I don't. Why
How
do I
could
not?
you forget that?
I know. What the heck? It was,
Obviously, it was impressionable.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
remember, at this point in time,
We're like-
it's 6:00 in the morning.
the sun's coming up.
11 hours in. We
Yeah.
haven't slept in a freaking long time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And we've all hit a wall
we're running
at
on
this
empty.
point. Yeah. So, and then I was talking about the show that I had told you guys earlier about with the prison and going undercover and telling you guys about how loud it was in there. And I asked if that's how it was for them, because this is enclosed, right? This is one level. This is a select amount of cells.
Yeah.
There's not that many cells in there.
And if it's the male population, this is the worst of the worst.
Yes. And this is the only place that the women were held.
Yep.
And mind you, there's murderers. The female, I mean, they were doing just as bad of things as the males were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyway, and then I asked if that's how it was for them. And then I got an EVP that I think says okay, which doesn't make sense. Because I did ask a question earlier prior to that, and I don't know if that's what it's answering to, which an okay would have been appropriate.
Yeah.
But because we do know sometimes, as you've listened to these EVPs, sometimes it takes a little bit for them to answer. Like a lot of the times they don't answer right away. Sometimes it's 5 seconds. Sometimes it's a minute or whatever later, and then they'll answer.
Yeah. So they might be answering a question you asked
5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so sometimes it's hard to line it up.
Yeah. So who knows? But I did get an EVP that says, okay, but it's kind of over us or under what we're talking when we're talking.
Yeah.
So you can't really hear it as well. I can hear it, but not good enough to play.
Yeah, and that's why like we always try to say like if you ask a question, try to leave some dead space so that if they do answer in that dead space, you'll hear it. But sometimes you don't wait long enough and then you start talking again and then you can hear it right underneath what you're saying and you're like, I wish I would have been quiet for a little bit longer.
Yeah, just make sure you give adequate space after each question, adequate time to let a spirit answer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but which we did.
We did.
We did
did.
give those adequate pauses.
Yes.
And actually quite a bit longer than we normally do.
Yes.
But because I think we're all tired.
Oh, definitely.
And we're like, okay, what are the same questions that we ask all the time? What's an easy one I can come up with? Because I'm so tired I can't even think
Do
of anything
you
right
like
now.
sandwiches?
Ever had peanut butter, banana, and bacon on a burger before?
So that is pretty much how we ended our night.
Yeah.
We did. Although I will say this, like when we were in the tunnel, we did have a spirit come and we kind of try to communicate with it a little bit.
It was a little boy.
It was like a 10-year-old boy
No, it was 5.
or 5, which is like the strangest thing to have in a prison.
Yeah,
it was okay.
It threw
Picture
us.
picture creep factor like scary movie. This little boy looks like he's like, I don't know if he was in his pajamas or like overalls or something. I can't remember. But he's holding this teddy bear. No facial expression whatsoever.
Just flat.
Just flat. And it's like he just comes around the corner and just stands there and stares at you.
Yeah.
No communication, nothing. And then about a minute later, turns the corner and disappears. Like, it's nothing that we saw, right? It's something that, I mean, I saw in my mind, right? Like, I was like, what is this thing? And I described it to them. And they're asking questions. I'm like, dude, this boy's not even moving. He's not even
There's
answering.
no reaction.
And they're like,
from
well,
this kid.
maybe it's kind of like how he was like a prisoner when he was little. And I'm like, I don't think so.
This is something entirely different.
This thing is evil.
Well, I mean, maybe there were prisoners that were evil when they were kids.
You never know.
And he's just reverting back to a child, an evil
True
child.
that.
Yeah.
Holding his little teddy bear. He's
Yeah.
probably going to rip the head off.
Probably going to hang it later from the jail, cell. But oh man,
Anyways, that was pretty much the end of our
yeah.
investigation.
Yeah.
Sun came up. We packed up, loaded up, and then we went out to breakfast.
Yeah, we went out to breakfast. But the interesting thing is being multiple times that we've been there, again, it was different this time than every other time.
It's
Yeah.
always different. It's always a different experience.
It's never been the same.
No.
And honestly, for me, it just kind of gets better and better.
Yeah.
Because for me, the EVPs are getting better. The amount of evidence that I'm getting is better. But then also at the same time, like last time we were there, we heard women screaming.
We got cussed at. We got
By a
growled
woman.
at. We
Yeah.
got hissed at.
Like totally different experiences.
Yeah. It was
This time it was like all the breaths that we kept
and
getting.
thumps
And thumps.
and stomps.
You know? So I don't know.
it's always
so
this
cool.
It's always this just different vibe every time we're there. And I think that's really the reason why we keep coming back. That and the place is just so massive.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because even in that 12 hours, we still didn't do the library,
West Siberia.
West Siberia. We didn't do the hole, the showers, the chapel,
No.
the prison life exhibit area, which was actually where the infirmary was. We didn't do that.
No.
We had so many different places we could do, and we've had experiences in all of these other places. I think the coolest thing that happened that night, well, besides what we've talked about, didn't even happen to us. But as Broken Wings was setting up one of the cameras inside of the chapel, as soon as he hit record, something walked right in front of the camera.
Which is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, like you're talking about like a second later, nothing. You wouldn't have caught anything.
I can't wait to see if he actually captured it.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
I'm
we
excited.
didn't talk about this, but Broken Wings Paranormal came with us.
Yeah, as
Yep.
well as Janelle from Paranormal Seekers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
came with us to investigate just because that place is so freaking huge. It's like there's plenty of space for everyone.
We had no idea they were there.
No.
There's
we
a
really
few
didn't.
times, like, when you're walking back over to where you've got all of your equipment, that we'll hear people talking, just walking back to go to a
base
different to go to a different spot or whatever.
But it's not overly loud or anything.
no, but
so
other than that, it's like
you don't know they're there.
it's so freaking massive. But yeah, so we didn't even investigate with them. They did their own thing. We did
Yeah.
our own thing.
Yeah.
And anyways, it was just so much fun.
Yeah. They're a good team to collaborate with. So,
Yeah. And honestly, I still want to keep going back to the prison.
you know,
Mhm.
I do too. But unfortunately this time, so for the last couple times that we'd went, excluding this time, we were able to get the key to the warden's office and go in there and investigate. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do that this time because
We were
a
not.
paranormal group from Canada came in and they moved stuff around and messed with things, and that's a big no-no. And unfortunately, because of that, now nobody is no longer allowed in there.
Yeah.
They did it in a couple of places, which is unfortunate.
Yeah,
Which made it
so-
a lot more difficult for us to move around.
Yes, it did.
And that honestly, like when you're investigating a place, not only do you need to respect the spirits that are there, but please respect the building and
Yeah.
if it's a museum, this place is an actual museum as well.
Mhm.
Please respect the artifacts that are there.
Don't be touching them, moving them around. Don't do that stuff.
And the thing
Yeah.
is, it's like, you're adults.
yeah,
Hopefully you were raised better than that. You know
obviously
what I mean?
not
Hopefully.
if they're doing that. I mean,
Like, just take that into consideration and think about all the other people that are going to be coming after you and what you're going to screw up for everyone else.
yeah,
Yeah.
Or even there are places that nobody can investigate anymore because of the disrespect of other paranormal groups.
Yeah.
And
In fact, that dwindles every year
yep.
from people going in there and, leaving garbage, behind and moving things or taking things, whatever. You ruin it for everybody.
Yeah. Just
Don't do it,
yeah,
please.
don't do it.
Just
Be
be
respectful.
respectful.
So on to what I think is becoming now one of my favorite parts of the episodes.
What's up?
Cookie of the episode.
Yes, we've been doing cookie of the episode for
This is our third.
Fourth.
Yeah, because the first we did the s'mores cookie.
Mhm.
Then we did the oatmeal cream pie.
Mhm.
Then we did the key lime cookie. And now we're doing this one, 4.
Yeah. It's
I
our
don't remember
fourth
the
cookie.
key lime.
Key lime coconut.
Oh, yes. Now I remember.
Yes.
So this one is Elisa sent me a few recipes. And I had everything for this one and it sounded wonderful.
And it looked delicious.
And it looked delicious. So this is a marshmallow filled Fruity Pebbles cookie.
so picture like a cookie,
Mm-hmm.
and in it is Fruity Pebbles, and it's also rolled in Fruity Pebbles. And on the inside is a marshmallow.
A melted marshmallow.
And how can you go wrong with it with a marshmallow?
Well, you can't. But unfortunately,
Until you hit this cookie.
yeah, this one's wrong. I think it's a great idea. I just think it needs some tweaking. But I follow the recipe exactly. I always do with a new recipe. This one definitely needs some help. There was half a cup of sugar in it, and I kind of looked at that and I thought, ooh, that's
Not enough.
not enough, right? This is more like what people like over in England would call a biscuit.
Yes.
Okay, this is not sweet at all in the slightest. It's very crumbly. I ended up having to add more liquid to it
Mm-hmm.
just to get the dough pliable to wrap around the marshmallow.
Yeah, this time, if it was ever to be made again, chocolate chip cookie dough without the
Yes.
chocolate chips.
Yes.
Chocolate chip cookie dough. And then I wouldn't roll it
Mm-mm.
in the Fruity Pebbles because it made the Fruity Pebbles, baking it like that, it made the Fruity Pebbles taste stale.
Yeah, even though it's a brand new box I opened up
Yeah.
when I made the cookies today. So
And then instead of a big honking marshmallow, you guys were talking about putting a bunch of mini marshmallows in it.
yeah,
Or even the fruity mini marshmallows.
those would be good too. It would probably bring out more flavor.
But you wouldn't get the gooiness.
Yeah, you would. They still melt like it's a marshmallow.
I mean, you wouldn't get the same pull
Yeah.
for sure.
well,
That's what I'm
because
talking
this
about.
is a big marshmallow rolled
Yeah.
up inside the dough.
So anyways, it was like a stale, almost kind of like a
It's-
stale cookie,
Awful.
dry stale cookie
Crumbly, just
with
not.
a ball of marshmallow on one side because it got hollow.
Yeah. It looks good and it smells good.
So
It don't taste good.
if I was say rated out of 5, what would you give it?
0.
I give it 0. I do not like it.
See,
Here comes Josh.
Here
I
comes
give that
me.
thing a 4.9 out of 5.
No, it wasn't. It's definitely not that high. I like the cookie. Honestly, I do.
Flavorless cookie.
It had
Yeah.
flavor to it. It just wasn't very sweet,
It just
Which-
wasn't a sweet flavor.
which didn't bother me any. But I would still only give it a 3. I wouldn't give it a huge like standing ovation like all the other cookies that we've had.
Yeah, I think this one for me was a mess.
This one was a total miss for me. And
Like-
it was not the problem with the creator of the baking, Jamie. This was not you.
No,
This is just the flat out recipe was nasty. And it's on Pinterest.
It is. You can find it there.
So if you're ever going to make it, it looks good. But mind you, add a freaking ton more sugar.
Yes, be warned. Well, and like we were saying, do like a chocolate chip dough minus the chocolate chips. I think if you go that route,
It would be a better cookie.
I think it would be a much better cookie.
hmm
Much.
So we just want to say thank you to all of the listeners who've made it this far in our episode and who continue to follow us and listen to us. We very much appreciate everybody who's tuning in and listening to us. And we just want to say thank you so much for being one of our followers. Please, if you haven't done it so, please rate and review us. It does mean a lot to us.
Yeah, and if you have any suggestions for future episodes, don't hesitate to, send us a thing on Messenger.
We'd love ideas.
Absolutely.
We could always use more ideas.
Or if there's a situation like a haunting or anything like that that's happened near your area or a story that you know, let us know
Yeah.
and we'll talk about it.
local legend, anything like
Yep.
that.
Absolutely.
And we did have someone make a suggestion, and I think that we will be creating an episode on that
Yes, we
down
will.
the line here.
Yep.
So
And as always, stay ghosty, my peeps. So we are talking about the old Montana State Prison.
yep.
And this is in Deer Lodge, Idaho. I'm sorry.
Old Montana State Prison in Idaho, guys. Josh is a genius.
Okay, so we are talking about the old Montana State Prison in Deer Lodge, Montana. We're off the rails.
Hey, it's your fault this time.
I didn't make a noise. I was silently laughing so you could keep going.
Okay, do it again. I'm sorry. I can't. This is gonna be a rough one. What time is it? The sun came up. We haven't even recorded half our episode. Oh, okay. I think the more we try to be serious, the harder it is.
Right?
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Let's go.
So we're talking about
Josh, come on, you're killing me, dude. You're killing me.
Okay, I'm going to
Smalls.
try it, and I'm going to see if I say it, if we can handle Just want to let you know, I'm not the one who started it.
just get them out now.
Oh. Sorry, I can't help it. That's a core memory. It literally is burnt into my brain and my nose.
I may have just peed a little.
Stop or else I'm gonna whiz. Come on now, I don't want to clean that chair. It's like a sponge.
Dorito smell like hot garbage for you?
And pee.
Ooh, wet garbage.
Hot, wet
You might
garbage.
just have to throw this chair away. It's been condemned.
Contaminated. You gotta go potty before we start.
Next time I'm just going to wear a diaper.
Paranormal depends. Are we done crying now?
I don't know.
Last
My face hurts so much. Josh is like rolling his eyes.
We really need to video these things.
Maybe I can't.
I knew this is how it was going to go. We were either going to be dead silent or we were going to be laughing so hard that we were crying.
Yeah. Over something that happened how long ago? Last October?
A year ago.
October, November. It was November.
It was November.
Yeah.
The
It was 10
hot garbage was a year ago?
10 months
Almost.
ago. It was 10
Really?
months ago. Yeah.
It'll be 10 months ago.
That's how
It'll be a year in
burnt
November.
into her.
Memory and nose.
Or sinuses.
Elisa and her hot garbage farts.
Seriously, though, the impression that I had on myself when I was like, oh, crap, she can smell.
Yeah, you thought I had the no smell COVID nose, which I did
You
actually.
did.
But your hot garbage farts seemed to just plow right through that wall.
Hey, I made it so you could breathe again.
Yeah, that's not what I wanted to smell.
Is that the first smell that you wanted to have?
No, I had Josh going around looking for the garbage can to see if he left
As
something
I
rotten
sat
in there.
my silence.
You said nothing. I told Josh, dude, you gotta clean this basement more.
I'm like, yeah, it's terrible. What is that?
All along, it was Elisa.
It was like diarrhea smelling.
I don't know, it smelled sour to me. Even with my COVID nose. Oh my gosh. Lisa's still crying over there.
I was terrified. At that point, I was like, crap.
Why were you terrified?
Because I didn't think that you could smell.
No wonder you
And
let it rip.
I had the worst farts. I mean, they were like diarrhea farts.
It was a precursor.
And I thought for sure I was golden. I totally thought for sure.
You're like, oh, they just got over COVID. They can't
Okay,
smell yet.
Well, and I came down here first, and I hurried and I farted. And you guys came down here after. You're like, why does it smell like hot garbage? I'm like, oh, crap.
She let us go on, and she watched Josh search for the smell.
Also saying, I don't know, what is it? It stinks so bad. Yeah, that's terrible.
I was like, Josh, man, if you're going to be down in the basement for your work office, you got to keep it clean, man.
Doesn't come clean for like
Hey,
months
but
later.
you didn't know
Months.
that it was a fart.
I didn't.
You
So-
didn't come,
Neither did Josh.
You didn't come clean for like 6 months.
Yeah.
Well, because I kind of forgot about it.
How do you forget
And then-
about farting and making it smell awful in the house?
And us looking for the source of the smell.
I don't know, I just did. And then something happened and it reminded me of it. And that's when I brought it up. Oh, man.
It was good. It's a core memory. You're never going to live it down.
What color is that core memory?
Agreed.
I don't know, but I remember the smell. A core memory with a smell.
Core memories are not supposed to be brown.
Did you
This
taste?
one is.
The question is, did you taste it?
No.
Oh, jeez.
I think if I would have tasted it, one, that's impressive. So good on you. But two, I would have been heaving. I would have been gagging.
Can you imagine if you could have smelled?
Ugh.
Just saying.
You're right. At least having COVID nose at least didn't let, a lot of it through, but enough to smell pretty sour. You should bottle it and sell it. As a gag gift.
Literally.
Fart in a can. Fart spray. Hot garbage.
Okay, I think I'm ready.
Me too. I think we're good.
All right.
Only half an hour of that, so
5
not
minutes.
bad.
Yeah.
Oh no, I meant even before we were recording.
Oh, yeah.
It started a while ago.
It did start a while
Probably
ago.
15, 20 minutes, but yeah. Okay.
Thank you for listening to the Paranormal Peeps podcast. You can find us on social media at Twitter at CPR Paranormal, on Facebook at Paranormal Peeps Podcast and Cold Spot Paranormal Research. And you can find us on Instagram at coldspot_paranormal_research.